3, 2, 1.
Let's
go! I am the host of the PBE podcast, Troy Tittlemeyer. I am at the port of Corpus Christi. And thank you, Brent. Thank you, Don, for making this happen. Thank you, Omar, for allowing us in here to ask these questions with you. I've been very educated today and very fortunate for this position today to be the host of the PBE podcast here. Please introduce yourself, what you do for the port, and then we'll kind of talk about what dropped out from the show.
Well, Troy, welcome to the Energy Port of the Americas, better known as the Port of Corpus Christi. On any given day, we export anywhere from 2.3 to 2.6 million barrels of crude a day. So when I say we are truly the Energy Port of the Americas, we are. Second largest exporter of LNG in the country and third largest exporter of crude in the world. In my role as the Chief External Affairs Officer, I oversee community relations, government affairs, communications, marketing, and commercial and business development. Port of Corpus Christi, as you know, is undergoing $65 billion of new investment, partnership with our customers, contractors, suppliers. You're seeing over 95,000 jobs, not only in the region, but throughout the state of Texas. And we're also known as the economic engine for the region. And so when you look at the Port of Corpus Christi, where we started back in 1926 as an agricultural port, then a refining port, and now one of the largest exporters of crude and LNG.
Yeah.
The transformation has been dynamic. The growth has been unprecedented, and there's more to come.
Okay, quick break from the show. Let's talk about the black box in our industry. It's usually the reservoir. You design the perfect completion, you pump the job, and then you wait for the production curve to tell you how you did. But what if the rock could talk back? At Borehole Seismic, they aren't just listening to the subsurface, they're giving it a nervous system. DAS, or DAS, strain monitoring. At Borehole Seismic, they take it a step further into the low-frequency realm. Imagine converting a standard fiber optic cable into a continuous string of thousands of ultra-sensitive sensors. While you're pumping, they're measuring the literal stretching and squeezing of the rock, sub-nanostrain sensitivity in real time. You can map the strain shadow. They're seeing exactly where the fractures are propagating, detecting fracture hit timing before it becomes a problem, and measuring cluster efficiency with surgical precision. Whether you're in oil and gas, geothermal, carbon capture, they're removing the maybe from your completion geometry. But maybe you've got a different problem. Maybe you've got legacy data that looks like a static filled TV from 1986. The reprocessing team at Borehole Seismic are the ultimate data whisperers. They apply advanced signal-to-noise enhancement to pull high-resolution insights out of noisy legacy data. It's like taking an old blurred photo and finally seeing the faces. Stop flying blind, optimize your stages, protect your offsets, and understand your reservoir's mechanical response like never before. Borehole Seismic is turning fiber into focus. Visit with Shane Quimby at boreholeseismic.com to see how they're redefining the borehole. Now, let's get back to the show. We're going to take a quick break from the show and talk about our sponsor, U.S. Coring, the independent leader in data recovery. You know, we talk a lot about drilling faster, completing better, but at the end of the day, your entire development strategy is only as good as the data you're pulling out of the ground.
If you don't know your rock, you're just guessing. That's why we're excited to have U.S. Coring as a partner of the show.
For those who don't know, U.S. Coring is actually the #1 independent provider of conventional coring services in North America. When we say independent, we're talking about a team with decades of experience in every basin, including Alaska and the Gulf of America.
What stands out to me is their track record. They've cut over 190,000 feet of core with a 97.5% recovery rate. But the stat that really matters for the folks on the rig, they've gone over 14 years without a single lost time incident. That's a serious commitment to safety.
That's right, and safety's a big deal. You know this, your dad's been drilling wells for over 25 years, and that's one thing that he always says. He said, when the downturn happens, who stays? The people that did it safe. They got the job done, but they did it safe. And they aren't just bringing old school tools to the site. Their flagship rock-strong system is engineered specifically for those high vibration, harsh environments where other tools might fail. It's got built-in jam mitigation and anti-jamming features so you can actually get the core to the surface without any extra trips.
And if you're looking for real-time insights, you have to check out their Intelligent Coring System, or ICS. They partner with Core All to bring modular, instrumented technology that gives you gamma, resistivity, and vibration data while you're coring.
Imagine saving 5 to 15 hours of rig time because you're seeing the formation evaluation data instantly. They even have the co-drill module, which lets you switch between coring and full bore drilling in real time without tripping pipe.
They proved it recently in the Lower Wilcox Formation using their Rockstrong system and low invasion bits. With the 210-foot oriented coring system, they secured a 210-foot core with 100% recovery at an average ROP of 22.5 feet per hour. No HSE issues or operational downtime, just high-quality data.
Wow, that was great. Whether it's conventional, oriented, full closure, or sponge coring, U.S. Coring is built for the future of the oil field.
Give them a call at their headquarters in Conroe, Texas, or visit them online at us-coring.com to see how they can optimize your next project.
U.S. Coring, experience you can trust. Now let's get back to the show. Man, wow. All right, we can end the show. No, I'm just kidding. Brent,
That was good.
that was great. Brent?
Yeah, I'm Brent Hopkins. I run a small oil company here in town. We're on the upstream end. We go try to find new hydrocarbons. I've been doing it for ever, it seems like. I moved to Corpus in 1984, so I've been driving over this port since 1984 because I live in Portland and work in Corpus. So,
Wow.
and we just have a small company trying to go find new hydrocarbons and trying to develop new things.
What do you do for Sipes?
For Sipes, Don, the cell next to me, volunteered me to be the program chairman for Sipes.
Nice.
About, 5 years ago?
No, last year.
Last year, something like that. Anyway, so my job is with Sipes, I try to get good speakers to come and give talks, and since I do this, I try to get ones that I like.
Exactly. He does a great job.
Talks I want to hear. So I bring the port in. We brought the guys, the Heart Institute people in. We've had
Great.
some really good talks. So, and then every now and then I can get a geologist in or two in to
Nice.
talk. So that's what I do for Sipes. Don kind of got me involved in that, and then Don also got me a couple other volunteer jobs.
How long have you guys known each other?
2007, I
Okay.
guess.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
and so when he did his chairmanship in 2007, I was on the committee to do spouse activities.
Oh, wow.
And then when it came around in 2016, I'm the general chair for some reason.
How well?
It's just kind of
I
turned
might have
around.
volunteered her for that. How that works basically is the GCAGS is a subsection of the AEPG, American Association of Petroleum Geologists.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like Jackson and New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Wichita Falls, Baton Rouge. We have all these different geologic societies, and once a year we put on a conference. We try to get as many papers as we can, people to publish,
Yeah.
right? And we'll actually get peer-reviewed papers. And it rotates, and it used to rotate through Corpus, and I was unlucky enough to get volunteered to do the 2007 convention with Dan Bedrati. We chaired that one. When our rotation came back up, as chairing that, I figured out who actually was working and who wasn't working, and who we needed actual volunteers that actually did work. Don was one of the ones that actually did a lot of work, So
Yep.
when it came back around, I somehow convinced her that she needed to be the general chairman. So,
Got her back.
so I got her back on that one. She's got
Started
me
it.
back a couple times since then. So, yeah, so she did a great job, and it was I think, I can't remember, a 220-page volume that
Wow.
was published.
We had
Nice.
115 papers submitted for that year's transaction. I don't know, you set these goals and then people are like, well, I've got to beat them. So I don't know if we've had more conventions that have had more either abstracts or full papers published, and but it was an incredible crew of 25 great volunteers that fundraising and soliciting technical content and
Love that.
Yeah.
It's all volunteer too.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's
Yeah.
a lot of hours people put in for those
Right.
things.
No, it is. The societies are so volunteer based, and it just it's amazing that the APG's been around for so long. I feel like that they really should get some credit for being around that they are, and being supportive to all these affiliate societies for so long, kind of giving us that that runway to get out there and meet other geoscientists and say, hey, let's bring somebody in that has a different idea. Let's bring someone in that's talking to the students. Like this society platform that we have in the oil and gas industry, and it's across the entire country. You can go to any state and you can find a geologic society, and there's probably some oil and gas that's supporting every single one of them. And so it's such, what an opportunity for the younger generation to go you can go anywhere and you will find somebody else who's got a similar degree, similar mindset on what are we doing with energy, how are we solving it here locally, how do we handle the freshwater problems. The things we talked about in this show are exactly why we get together and why we do what we do as geoscientists with these societies. They're so vital to the success. Don, a quick introduction. I missed your introduction. Sorry.
I've been fortunate to be part of a major oil company. My husband and I are partners in a smaller oil company. I don't know if it's the size of Sumar, and then I've been on my own, just supporting local geologists, for the past. So I've kind of seen all of the aspects of it, the big plus the little, and
right. Advancements in computer technology.
Oh, absolutely.
Big
When
time.
I started, I had one geographic quad, 7.5 minute quad, 1,000 miles of data, line data on paper.
Oh my goodness.
And 350 well logs, and all of that was worked by paper.
Wow.
And now it's
You do that.
you bring it in, and in those early days, the only way you could get it on the computer is $100,000 mainframe and a $200,000 software suite. And now you can. Well, now it's getting expensive, but by the mid 90s, you could get it on a PC for a $10,000 software suite. So it progresses quite rapidly.
You got to progress with it. I would love to do
Absolutely.
another podcast with you. I got to do one with Brent over the phone at least, but one of these days I'll get to sit down and talk more about your development.
When you come back to Corpus.
Yes. That sounds like
When you
a
move to
plan.
Corpus.
Oh man, don't think I shouldn't have said. I got a little excited there. My wife is going to be like, "You might want to edit that out."
You want to come see the serpentine plugs underground?
Yeah.
You can come to my office because I have a bunch of seismic over them.
Oh
Ooh, I wanna
man, yeah,
Can I see?
absolutely.
Yes, I know where about 50 of them are. So.
Oh,
Golly,
ooh.
see, these are new discoveries to be made.
Yeah, I
Could
hope.
be.
I hope that they've been picked over pretty much. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
So this is going to be a good talk, after this to
Yeah.
our SIPES community. Real quick, SIPES stands for the Society of Independent Professional Earth Scientists. So we're about 650 nationwide members now. We are independent. You don't get into SIPES unless you have experience and you're vouched by people who know you that you're competent, capable, and ethical. So if somebody from SIPES brings you a deal, it's going to be a legitimate deal. And in the 2020s, we had statistics where probably 80, we're talking about a lot of production, and we've got the majors, but probably nitty gritty, 70 to 80% of the production probably comes from independents.
Wow.
Wow.
and they're the ones finding all the new stuff.
Right.
Then you'll have the mergers and it'll all get taken over.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Permian Basin wasn't discovered by Exxon, right?
No.
Right.
Now they own most of it.
Right.
Right.
Somebody else did that work and got them, and then they came in and took it over. So.
Well, any key dropouts from you guys today that you wanna talk about before I get into the quotes and quips of inspiration?
I think Corpus is an incredible place to live and to work, and the port and our scientific community is a great benefit to the area.
I like that. I like what you said.
I do too.
Yeah, the Port of Corpus is the economic engine for the region. It's no longer just a small little port. It's an international player that's going to continue to bring benefits to this community for decades to come.
The whole state, the whole world. I'm blown away by what I really learned and dove into today. Okay, you tell me when to stop? Okay, don't make excuses. Champions don't focus on the faults of others. They focus on what they can do better. They see their mistakes and defeats as opportunities for growth. As a result, they become stronger, wiser, and better.
Perfect.
You like that, Don?
I do.
Okay, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Oh, yeah, I almost got the end. Okay. An original is way more valuable than a replica. Huh. We were talking about the replica, the repeatedness of the horizontal play, right? You just, okay. This is strangely connecting. When you try to be when you try to be like everyone else, and you get lost in the sea of mediocrity. Instead, embrace what makes you unique. Be great at you. Stand out.
I like all that.
Okay, last one. What do we
Stop.
Oh yeah, nice and
Here we
early.
go.
Here we go. Navy SEALs say that when you're under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training. So train well.
I have a similar quote in my office. Pressure is a privilege.
Wow,
Pressure is a privilege.
man, I love that. Welcome to the conception part of the PBE podcast, and I really appreciate you, Brent and Don, for the opportunity to speak at SIPES and for setting this up with Omar. I mean, to talk about the port and for my career, coming from the Permian and now sitting at the port where most of the liquid that comes out of the Permian is going to and selling to the world. For us, it's a huge connection that I had no idea was going to happen until about 2 weeks ago, right?
Well, yeah. Well, you decided you wanted to come down, and I tried to find somebody who could actually talk to you, knew what's going on. So I pulled some strings, and Omar showed up for this. So
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So, well, I'll be leaning on you guys to engage with Omar, but this is the conception part of the show. So quick backgrounds, and then we'll go to Omar and really get to know him over the next 30, 45 minutes. So please, Don, background.
Dawn Bissell. I'm fortunate to have been able to stay in the industry for my whole career. I'm not going to tell you how long, and but my education was geology and computer science way back when it was still called computer science, and like I said, I've been fortunate to stay with a major, and then with some independence, and then just on my own.
The upstream, the exploration.
Always on the upstream.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen a well fracked. You know, they get the damn geologist off as soon as the frack team comes in. So I haven't even seen that part of it. But it's really cool to drive up to a rig and like this, all of this industry is here because I put the dot on the map.
Wow.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Brent?
all right, I'm Brent Hopkins. I'm president of SUMAR right now. I've been in this business since 1981, so I've been doing this a long time. I've primarily been with small independent companies for my whole career, essentially. I've never worked with a major, so I haven't had to play well with others for the most part. So. And I'm also on the exploration, and I'm a geologist by background, geophysicist by training, and I still like to make maps, so that's kind of what I do for a living. Try to find some new spots to drill. So.
I love that. When's the last time you sat in a room full of geologists, Omar?
Ooh, it's been a long time. Probably since my days at Steer when I was running the South Texas Energy and Economic Roundtable, which was a trade association formed to focus on the Eagle Ford Shale when the Eagle Ford Shale took off in 2012. And I mean, those were companies that household names that unfortunately a lot of those have been merged, you know, Marathon, EOG, BHP, BP, we had Exxon, we had Lewis Energy. At that point it was Stat Oil.
Wow.
I could go on and on. It was all the large majors, and they came together to do a trade association to focus on how was the oil and gas industry impacting the South Texas communities, how was it benefiting them, how could the oil and gas industry help with whatever impacts that they were causing. So it was very unique because it was the first time the oil and gas industry had come together and built a trade association that wasn't focused on lobbying at the state and federal level. It was all about community engagement. So it was very unique. It was one of the probably, I'll call it the coolest jobs I've had in my career.
Really?
Because of the dynamics of the oil and gas industry. They wanted to do what was right for South Texas, and they're still there. Fortunately, the Eagle Ford Shale is not at the magnitude that it once was when you had, 300 or 400 wells. It's slowed down a lot. It's nowhere near where the Permian Basin is, but at one point, the Eagle Ford Shale was rocking.
Right. Well, let's rock it back. I like that transition. Rock it back. Where are you from?
So I grew up just 30 minutes south of here in Kingsville. Born and raised in Kingsville.
Kingsville.
Home of the King Ranch and
Yeah.
Texas A&M. Kingsville used to be Texas A&I. And so born and raised, graduated from Kingsville, went to school in Austin, a small school called St. Edward's University. And spent most of my career early on in economic development. Started my career with the governor's office in Austin doing economic development. Transitioned to Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation. Got an opportunity to come back home. But with anything, had another opportunity to go to try something different and go do banking at Bank of America. So took a leap of faith, went to Houston. My girlfriend, now wife, was in Houston, so it all worked out. But man, going from Corpus to Houston was a big change. And so, excuse me, when I had the opportunity to come back, we actually went from Houston to San Antonio. And then came down to Corpus eventually. Been here almost September would make 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I moved to Corpus in 2020 in the middle of COVID.
Whoa.
In July. So we sold a house and bought a house during COVID because for 2 years I commuted from 2018 to 2020. I was commuting from San Antonio going back and forth. The family wasn't really committed whether we were coming to Corpus or not. It was a great opportunity. COVID hit, and here we are. September is going to make 8 years at the Port of Corpus. So it's been a great run.
What'd your parents do for a living?
My dad was actually in the industry. He worked for Celanese, which was a chemical plant in Bishop, a little town near Kingsville. So he was in safety, and my mom was a school teacher. They both worked for about 30 years.
Brothers, sisters?
I have a younger brother.
That's it.
A younger brother. He's actually works for. He's in the lab. He's a lab technician for Infinium, which is an e-fuels company that has a partnership with Howard Energy. They're located on the south side of our channel with Howard Energy at their Javelina facility.
Wow, right on. Now, when I came into Corpus for the first time, which was yesterday, I was kind of blown away how big it is. And you said going to Houston, there was a big change for you. What was it about Houston that was so different of here? It feels like Houston to me.
Traffic.
Oh, yeah, there's no traffic. That's true.
So,
no traffic here.
You know, and certainly Don and Brent can attest to this, but when you look at the evolution of Corpus, and there's one key thing that changed the dynamics of this town. It was the export ban that was lifted in December of 2015 under then President Obama. Mm-hmm. That changed the fortunes, that changed the trajectory of this region, and we haven't looked back since. But it was that one legislative change that allowed domestically produced crude to be exported. Before that, that ban had been in place since the Carter administration.
Wow.
I guess there was during the crisis in the Middle East. For whatever reason, I wasn't alive yet. But there was a ban on exporting crude out of the United States. So when the crude market kind of crashed in 2014, people were lobbying very hard to allow us to export the crude. So the first barrel of crude that left the United States was from, at that point, what we called Oil Dock 1. It was a ConocoPhillips barrel, and it was sent through the New Star dock, which is now Sunoco. So that was December 31st. It was the TOT ship, and that ship sailed from Corpus to Spain. So it was a very iconic moment for having this port export the first barrel of crude in over 40 years. But since then, we went from no exports. 2016, it was like 500,000 barrels, to now, let's just talk about 2025. We average anywhere between 2.3 to 2.5 million barrels of crude leave the Port of Corpus Christi every single day. And as I look at that from a perspective in the total United States, we almost have a 60% market share of all crude exports.
Wow.
Which is just an amazing statistic, because if you look back in 2015, it was zero, right?
Wow.
But that one legislative change changed the fortunes of this region. We have right now over $65 billion of new investment going on in Corpus Christi, all attributable to the oil and gas industry.
Right.
The major midstream companies, when they determined that Corpus was a deep draft port, and that we made a commitment that we were going to deepen our port from a depth of 47 feet to 54, that was a certainty that the midstream companies had to put those pipelines in the ground and point them to Corpus, as opposed to pointing them to Houston or Freeport or Beaumont. You know, we compete with 18 other ports in Texas, right? It's very competitive. Houston being our biggest competitor. But you've got 4 pipes pointed at the Port of Corpus Christi. You've got Cactus 1, Cactus 2, Cactus 3, and the Gray Oak. All 4 of those pipes are 90% subscribed. They're almost at capacity, right? December of 2024, that whole month, we averaged 3 million barrels of exports per day. That was the highest total we had ever seen, right? So it's been a dynamic story.
Yeah.
It's been a very cool story. It's been a wild ride. 2025, we were down a little over 1%, which we had been on a growth trajectory. But a lot of that is attributable to geopolitical issues, the tariffs. Nobody wants to talk about tariffs, but tariffs played a role a little bit. So it wasn't a huge loss, but it's something that we're going to monitor. Obviously the Permian Basin is our bread and butter. Our port only has Texas specs. In other words, the crude that we receive is only coming from the Eagle Ford and the Permian Basin.
Whoa.
We don't have crude coming from, say, the Bakken Shale. We don't have crude that comes from Canada. We are really a two-trick pony, as we like to talk about it, just the Eagle Ford and Permian Basin.
And is it low gravity, high gravity? It's all just kind of commingled in, or is there a
That's the one thing with the Port of Corpus is that we don't like to commingle barrels. We have a very neat barrel. It's what the market wants. So if it's an Eagle Ford spec, it's an Eagle Ford spec. If it's a Permian spec, it's a Permian spec. The midstream companies try not to commingle too many barrels because they want that neat barrel.
Right, makes it easier to refine.
easier on the
Right,
refinery?
because you don't have to tweak things if you have the same oil going in every time.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And-
Well, we're talking about the pipes coming to Corpus, from the Permian Basin. If you just look at a map of Texas and you think, where can I actually build a pipeline? Going through Austin is not very good, or going through the hill country, right? So, it was obvious they were going to have to come south around all the San Antonio to Fort Worth corridor of one giant city that it's becoming, right?
Wow,
So
location.
they can go south of it. There's not a lot of people on Dilley that are going to complain if you put a big pipe through there. So.
But you still
that
have
helps.
Pipes going to Houston.
Yeah, you got the older pipes.
Yeah.
Putting new pipe in, it's a lot harder,
Look at the Guadalupe Explorer behind you guys. Look at that thing coming
Oh
in.
wow! Yeah, I got a view in the mirror there.
That view never gets old. I can tell you that. It never gets old, Troy.
That is big.
That's a sign of economic development, progress, and all the above.
Yeah, lots of people going to work.
Yes.
Right. No, I love that. I love that. And it goes back to, well, I want to rock it back to this port is from 1926. Is that accurate? That's how old?
Yes, sir. So it was incorporated in 1922, and in 1926, it started operations. Ironically, this port was started as an agricultural port to service the local farms and ranches that were here. The cotton industry, grain, sorghum. The King Ranch played a very pivotal role in establishing this port. It obviously transformed the region, right? Our founding fathers had a great vision. I don't think that if they were alive today, would understand the magnitude of what they created and what it means to not only the industry, the region, but internationally. All our trading partners that receive the crude and the liquefied natural gas from this port, that's a great story that we have. This plays into national security. It's a huge, huge port in terms of national security for all our trading partners around the world. But we went from a agricultural port for several decades. Then we transitioned to a lot of refining with three major refiners, Valero, Flint Hills, and Citgo.
Okay.
And that I would say from the 60s all the way to 2015, this was a refining agricultural port, right? With other commodities that would come in and out, but nothing of significance. But if you look at the revenue makeup of the port today, 80% of it is exports. Wow. 80% of our revenue comes from the exports in the oil and gas industry, right? And refining is still a huge component. Don't get me wrong. We love our three refiners, but exports is a huge component of this port. At the same time, it's also scary because with the stroke of a pen, that ban could come back in place. And then what, right? When I was it 5 or 6 years ago when gas was over $3, there was this argument that why are we sending all that crude overseas? Why don't we keep it? Would that lower the price?
Right.
So that was a little moment in time that caused a little concern, but I think cooler heads prevailed in D.C. and we never had further more than a couple of articles in the newspaper, but it didn't have any traction.
Another thing, that ban and the lifting of that ban, as a producer in South Texas, we were getting, because when the Eagle Ford kicked off, the Eagle Ford had a lot of high gravity oil, right? So that's putting out a bunch of high gravity oil. We're getting a $7 discount for our barrels in South Texas. As soon as they lift that ban, now we're getting a $4 discount. I mean,
wow.
$4 per barrel is huge, especially when oil's $38 or something, which it happens every now and then goes to. Right? So, for the producers of South Texas, lifting that ban was huge for us, from our bottom line.
Interesting.
That was a big, $4 a barrel is a big.
And so, through World War II, right? This was a huge exporter for the energy needed to fight that war. Is that accurate?
I'm not
I don't
sure.
go back that far.
On the 40s, I don't think we had the refiners in place yet.
Okay.
This is a strategic military port. We have a lot of military cargo that comes in and out from Fort Hood. So we are the largest military strategic port in the state of Texas. But in the 40s, I think this port was primarily still the cotton and agriculture.
Yeah. Wow. I like the experience you have and being actually boots on the ground with the steer program and figuring out what we're doing with all this wealth that we are generating, right? And there is a lot of wealth that we generate. What are we doing with it for the people, and understanding how we're actually developing these small cities that all of a sudden are boom towns. And we see what happened in the past in the old 20s and 30s and 40s of LA and the Permian Basin, where these boom towns come up and then they're all intense and they're all gone, and the boom towns, it's a dead town after that. What was that like, talking to the people and educating them from the perspective of the operator, but also the person?
I think the biggest thing that you saw with the onset of the Eagle Ford and that boom was a lot of people remember the 80s. And how great the 80s were, and then when it crashed. So they were very nervous about how long was this play actually going to last? Was this going to be a repeat of the 80s, or the oil and gas companies going to come here, drill, and then be gone?
Right.
But what happened was roads and traffic accidents is what really caused for a lot of concern in rural South Texas, where the drilling was happening.
Okay.
Also, all of a sudden, if you went to get groceries, you went to go see your doctor, your dentist, you had lines because of the influx of workers that came into, say, a Karn City or Cotulla, even Laredo, Three Rivers, Pawnee, all throughout rural South Texas. The oil and gas industry came in droves, and it impacted their quality of life. But I will say, working with the oil and gas industry, they invested millions of dollars in quality of life amenities, whether it was parks, or donations to nonprofits, helping fix roads, helping the counties with any infrastructure projects they have. They went above and beyond to ensure that they could keep that social license to operate in South Texas. And so they're still there. Again, the Eagle Ford is not where it used to be, but you still have a lot of companies operating in and around South Texas that are continuing to do what's right for the communities.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we do a lot better job of cleaning up our messes than we used to,
Right.
in the old days. So that's important. And also, you just think about the number of people that are employed in the industry. That's a place like Karn City doesn't have a lot of else other than agriculture. So when the oil and gas came in there, it boomed, obviously, like it always does when the upstream stuff kicks off. But a lot of those people are still working in the industry somewhere, right? So
Absolutely.
that helps everybody. Crime goes down when people have jobs, so it's good for the communities.
Wow.
Yeah, new hotels were built, new hospitals were built, new HEBs were built. Again, the quality of life improved dramatically because of the Eagle Ford, and they're still experiencing the benefits of it today.
And you're a master naturalist, right?
Yes.
And so how do you become that? How do you become a master naturalist?
It's a joint program through Texas AgriLife and Texas Parks and Wildlife Department.
Okay.
And they have a curriculum. They want you to do 40 hours of initial training. You have to do 40 hours of volunteer work, and then 8 additional hours of advanced training. And it is, the core mission is to develop a core of informed volunteers to benefit the community, the Texas communities, nature communities.
So when, as a geoscientist and listening to what Omar got to experience with the Eagleford, and we see this kind of polarized environment from the scientists, the explorers that are finding this resource that's generating this amazing wealth and providing progress for humanity with the development of cities and the development of medical, everything that the oil and gas industry really does. How are the environmental, how is the opposing side of that coming from a naturalist point of view? What are they missing something, or are we not conveying enough information to them? Why the opposing view, in your opinion?
Down here, the master naturalists are developed by regions or organized by regions, and down here we're very, very much aware of what oil and gas brings to us, very much aware of what the Navy brings to us, and personally, you can throw anything at me that you want, and I'm not going to be offended. I'm an earth raper, I'm a evil oil and gas person.
Golly.
It doesn't bother me. But how'd you get here today? What's your kayak made out of that you're going out and protesting? These different things, and there again, we give back a lot.
Yeah.
One of the first projects I did, and the only time I've really been directly pushed like that is with Conoco, and a little colony of black skimmers was nesting right there before you go over the JFK, and the little chicks would run out into traffic. And so we partnered with the county, and they built a fence, and then we came in and put the low barrier under the first rung, and did the signage, and so we were out there making it up, and a reporter came, well, how is this payback for all of the bad stuff you're doing? And at the time, this is in the 80s, okay?
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't have enough wherewithal or quick-wittedness to say, no, well, look at the jobs we're providing, and look, and everything like that. So another release that Conoco had at the time was the Aransas National Wildlife Refuge. And that is the main home to 500 whooping cranes. Now, they had gotten to a low of 16, and through conservation efforts and everything, a lot of organizations, they're now up to, that colony is 554 or something that migrate down from Canada every year. And Conoco had that lease. And so how many operations are you going to say that, okay, we're going to shut down operations from October to April? We're only going to operate 6 months out of the year, because that's when the whoopers were in that on that lease. And so we didn't do any operations for 6 months out of the year. So I think people are kind of seeing that. Citgo does a lot of community outreach, and
Absolutely.
And the port, our little chapter has gotten a couple of port grants, to buy demonstration materials and things like that. And I think, and the number of people, if they're not directly employed by the energy industry, they're indirectly, benefit that. And so we're very fortunate down in this region.
You spurred a memory when you mentioned the whooping cranes and how your drilling schedule was based on the whooping cranes and their migration patterns. The leases in South Texas, the oil and gas industry would be very careful to drill when it was hunting season. That's the steps that they took to ensure that the wildlife was not impacted and the conservation. They also worked very closely with the Caesar Wildlife Foundation down at A&M Kingsville to ensure that once the well was producing and they moved on to the next one, that they reseeded with native grass. Those are the steps that they took to ensure that South Texas remains South Texas. That those are the details that they looked at to ensure that everybody understood that we're in it for the long term, and we want to make sure we keep South Texas the gem that it is.
Wow. And these kinds of developments are in newspapers, they're on social media, right? They get some coverage. It's just maybe
if we don't push it out on our own social media, or when I was at Steer or the trade associations, it doesn't get coverage. It's a good story for the oil and gas industry, and it's very difficult for media to pick that up.
We aren't very.
They just don't want to report about it.
We're not very good ambassadors for our own industry usually. We just try to go do our work and then go
Right.
home.
Yeah.
And we try. A lot of people try. I mean, a lot of people don't know what the port does, and we try to get a lot of messaging out there. And it's worked, but I mean, we only have a limited budget on advertising, right? And the oil and gas industry does as well too. To your point, we want to go get our job done, go home, be safe, and keep safety in mind, right? But there's so much unknown on the great stuff that this industry does that people just aren't aware of, and it's hard to talk about it and reach the masses.
Well, I'm excited. I've heard a little bit of your plans once the bridge comes down of what you're going to put right out here, and I think that'll be a great open door.
Absolutely.
for
So we're gonna call it Harbor Point East, which is going to be a park that is going to be open to the public that the port will undertake and fund. It'll be an opportunity for folks to learn about the port. There'll be a lot of educational opportunities, and it'll bring them closer to the ship channel, where they can see ships coming in and out and traversing.
Can you imagine a 5-year-old looking at what we just looked at? Like my son would be like, I want to be on that thing. I want to learn all about that.
And we're trying to be a little bit more inclusive so people can understand. And we're very transparent. We're a public entity.
Yeah.
But we also have to keep safety in mind. After 9/11, no private boat or pleasure boat can come in and out of this gateway.
No kidding.
It is a secure area. Just because of the infrastructure and all the things that are happening at the port of Corpus Christi. So it's hard for people to touch and feel the port. So we do tours often. We started doing tours to the public, and we walk them through this building and our conference center, which adjoins us, the Congressman Ortiz Center. So it was a warehouse built in 1922 that the original walls are still there. The structure's still there, right? But we can't get people on boats because it's very hard from a security standpoint.
Yeah.
So when we do tours, we have to do background checks. We have to do security checks, but we're trying to be a little bit more inclusive so people can understand what the impact that the port has for this region.
When the bridge used to be the stopping point, everybody could see this. You can't go past here,
Right,
with your
right.
boat. So it'll be interesting to see how you're going to have a stopping point when that bridge is gone.
Well, we have all kinds of signs out there, Brett, and trust me when I tell you, we've got
Horns
4 or
and
5 police vessels, police boats that are looking at it. Every now and then we have a couple of stragglers, but they don't make it past this dock. This is a highly secure area.
Yeah,
can
as it
imagine.
should be.
With the assets that we have, it's highly secure.
Right.
Yeah, if you in a time of war, this wouldn't be a good place to be.
No.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you don't have those.
Right. That's right. Yeah, downtimes will happen, but hopefully a lot less of the big wars and the fighting, right? And I was driving through this city yesterday, and I was thinking to myself about that if I'm understanding this port correctly and its development over the next 20 years, 40 years in Texas, this is got to be one of the most secure, financially secure for people to develop their careers and do something for society. It's just the foundation of this port and how much money it's coming through and how important it is for the development of Texas and natural resources. Like, I can almost see myself wanting to be involved in something like this. It just seems like there's such a great opportunity in the years to come for Corpus Christi, which I think my wife would say that seems very odd. Corpus Christi's old, like she's got like this kind of her preconceived conception of the place, being from Mission and knowing about it, visiting it. She's like, nah. And I'm driving around like, I love this place. This is really nice. Like, and she's like, it is? Okay, we got to come back here. We got to talk.
Gets a little hot in the summer, but
But we've got the breeze. We
We do have a breeze by like 6 o'clock. It's nice. You mentioned the revenue that comes to this port. Every day, our goods movement is $321 million per day of goods movements that comes in and out of the port of Corpus Christi. 300. That's an astonishing number.
Yeah.
The port, when you look at the port and its customers, we can't do this without our customers. We're responsible for 95,000 jobs, 16,000 direct, 16,000 indirect. And the rest of that 95 is throughout the state. So the impact is far-reaching, just beyond the 2 counties that we serve. The port serves 2 counties: Nueces County, where we sit today,
Okay.
and San Patricio County to the north. So we have our inner harbor, which we're seeing right here, and then we have our La Quinta channel, which is in San Patricio County. And there's where you have Cheniere, which is the 2nd largest producer of liquefied natural gas in the world. And then you have the largest crude exporter of in North America, which is Enbridge. They export about 1 million barrels a day from that facility in Ingleside. And then you have Gibson Energy, which is another exporter of crude. So our 2 largest customers, ironically, are Canadian-based. Both Gibson and Enbridge are based in Calgary.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, look at another one. This one's the Golden, what was it called? The
Golden State.
The Golden State. Look at that thing.
And that is a tanker with crude. And you can't see the bottom.
Oh, it's full.
It's fully laden.
It's plumb
Fully
full.
loaded.
Golly. How many people are on that ship right now?
Oh, that's a good question, Troy. I don't want to lie to you. I couldn't tell you, but it's a fair amount to sail around the world.
And where's this crude going?
I'd have to look at my vessel tracker, but I don't know where it's going. So our top 5 destinations for crude are Asia, Spain, France, South America, Mexico, India. Those are some of our top destinations, and the same thing for LNG as well too. The markets kind of are very similar.
So why Mexico? They should have their own oil,
They do,
but they need our grade.
they want the light sweet crude,
Okay, they want light sweet
They want
for
light sweet
the
crude.
refineries. Okay, that makes sense.
and a lot of it's refined product as well too that Howard is shipping via rail
Okay.
into Monterey.
Into Monterey. Interesting. I know we send a lot of gas there now too. Where they-
It's a good transition into the drill down segment of the show. You guys good to drill down into the port?
You know, the one thing that he didn't mention when he talked about all that oil leaving here, right? You
Yeah.
got to think about what is that, right? That is a tremendous amount of energy that's going to go someplace else and help build their economies.
Right.
Because they got to have this energy. Energy is life, regardless of what all people
Bottom
we
line.
need. We have to have energy, right? So all that gas that's leaving, all that oil that's leaving, that's providing energy for somebody else to build a better life for themselves. So it's all. The industry doesn't do a very good job ever of promoting itself.
Yeah.
But like on the upstream end, like us, our job is to go find something that nobody thought was there.
That's
right.
right.
So we're creating wealth, and then these guys are taking that and they're taking that energy and sending it somewhere else so they have an opportunity for better lives. Right. You're bringing everybody out of poverty by adding energy to the mix, and so that is just getting this oil to someplace where they need it is very important to help the whole world, not
Yeah.
just us. Obviously everybody does it for money. That's what we do this. We do this
Sure.
work for money, but there's so many other things that it provides. We're drilling some wells on Duval County when I first got down here in 1984, and we found had a nice little discovery out on a ranch in the middle of nowhere in Duval County, south of San Diego.
Okay.
And my land guy tells me, he goes, "Hey, you're not gonna believe this, but one of the landowners went to the bank and tried to buy money to buy a mobile home, right? And he was going to finance his mobile home, and the idea was, the bank was he goes, I'm going to get this money. These guys drilled this well on me, and I'm going to use that to pay for this mobile home." And then they call our land guy to confirm that he actually had these royalties, and Tony, it was Tony Gaddy at the time. Tony basically says he can pay for that mobile home every month. You know what I mean? He doesn't realize how big an impact this is going to have on his life going forward from his royalties from this well. I mean, he doesn't need to finance a mobile home anymore. He can buy a ranch, it's that big impact. And you start thinking about it, this guy basically had nothing. And then suddenly somebody goes and drills a well on his royalty, and then he's a fairly rich man,
Yeah.
Whether or not he hung on to any of that money, I don't know. But
Yeah, right on. Well, thank you guys. This is the drill down section of the PBE
Drill down,
podcast
all
where
right.
we drill into the port of Corpus Christi. We talked about its history. We talked about it's a marvel. It's almost an eighth wonder of the world from where I'm sitting from. I had the chills, and I started realizing, wow, when you showed me the tanker yesterday, I'm going, oh my gosh, it's happening 24/7, 7 days a week. Doesn't take birthdays, doesn't have holidays. This port and the people involved in it are so dedicated and so important, and I'm just in awe. I mean, I really am, and I appreciate the time you put in, your attention in what you do every day, and I'm just fascinated to learn more about it. There's always some trials, right, in everything. What are some of the biggest issues that the port has had to deal with over time?
I think when you have $65 billion of new investment, not everybody's going to be happy, right? Majority of the people are going to be happy. Majority of people want to see economic development. They want to see more tax growth, more jobs.
Yeah.
They want their kids to stay in this region. Yeah. But again, you always have the vocal minority that don't want growth. The interesting thing about the port is we don't operate anything. We're a landlord port. So if you want to come do business at the Port of Corpus Christi, if you want to put a petrochem facility, you want to put another refinery, you want to export crude, we're going to lease you that land.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So Houston is an operating port. They operate terminals. They operate container terminals. Right.
Wow,
We're
okay.
a landlord port. There's two distinctions of ports: an operating port and a landlord port. We fall into the category of landlord port. The only thing we operate is a ship loader and one crane at our bulk terminal, which brings different aggregates in and out of the port, imports and exports, right?
Wow.
So when you have major projects like Cheniere's $15 billion liquefied natural gas facility out in La Quinta Ship Channel, San Patricio County, when you have GCGV, which was an ethylene cracker facility built by Exxon and SABIC, Saudi Arabia company, you're going to have impacts. And the community always likes to point at the port. Again, we're not operating anything. We're just leasing the land. But what we've done a really good job in the last several years is get in front of some of this, is go out, talk to the community stakeholders, talk to the elected officials. Within the two counties that we serve, we have over 17 different little cities and municipalities that we have to deal with. That's 17 city councils.
Wow.
Right? And so the port is, everybody likes to talk about the port. Everybody talk about the city of Corpus or Nueces County, but the port is the economic engine for the region. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're always in the limelight. We're always being talked about. But we have a community relations team that goes out, talks to different stakeholders on a regular basis. We do speeches around the region as well, too, to help spread the message. But we also are very philanthropic. We're able to give back to the community through what we call our Promotion and Development Fund. Every port in Texas follows the Texas Water Code, and there's dozens of different chapters within that water code. We fall in chapter 60 and 62. As part of our Promotion and Development Fund, the water code says that you can give up to 5% back of your total revenue every year back into the community.
Whoa.
Prior to COVID, we had only given about $1 to $2 million a year. COVID hit, we ramped up to almost $6 million back into the community. This port has given back since 2021. So that money goes back into nonprofits, whether it's the American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, local nonprofits, but we also give to a lot of the chambers of commerce, the economic development organizations. Again, all total, we're in at about almost $6 million. So that's, as our fortunes grow and our revenues grow, we want to be able to give back to the community, which leads me to another comment. You know, everybody thinks the port has a lot of money. And yes, we've been very blessed because of the customers in the port, but the money that we derive from our customers, and we get it three different ways. We get it through dockage, which is how long a ship is docked at one of our public docks. We get it through wharfage, which is another term for tariff. So we have published rates for any commodity that's being imported or exported out of this port. Everybody pays the same rate depending on the commodity. And then land leases. Those three sources is what keeps this port running. So the money that we generate, not only does it go back into the community, but we put that money back into the port to remain competitive. We have to remain competitive and have the most updated and best infrastructure for our customers. That's where our money goes, is back into the Port of Corpus Christi.
Wow. You know, Brent mentioned something between segments that the amount of energy we're delivering around the world through this port is incredible to think about, right? That you're delivering something that's so vital for other countries to help them develop, built on our exploration and our efforts out in the field and what's going on there. I thought that was a great comment that fits into this, what we're doing.
So I'm going to give you a couple of statistics that are just so amazing and a sense of pride for the port. We're the third largest exporter of crude, not in the country, in the world,
Whoa.
behind Saudi Arabia and Iraq. As a port, the port and its customers
Really?
are the third largest exporter of crude in the world.
Oh, I thought China would be up there. It's not an exporter, it's more of an importer.
Probably more of an importer.
Okay.
So there's that. There's one. 22% of all commodities that leave the Port of Corpus Christi go to the Port of Rotterdam, which is in the Netherlands. And from there, the crude and the LNG is dispersed to Belgium, Germany, and all over Europe, right? They are our largest trading partner, the Port of Rotterdam and the country of the Netherlands. 22%. Wow. The other thing, 10% of all of Europe's energy needs come from the Port of Corpus Christi.
Jeez.
So you talk about the implications again
Yeah.
of global geopolitics. We're right in the middle of it and nobody knows,
Yeah.
right? But again, it's the customers and the Port of Corpus Christi that are shipping those goods around the world.
Wow. And you say geopolitics, but I heard geopower, that's the support of geopower, around the world.
It is like we talked about the energy, but also the LNG that goes out. I mean, basically, we're keeping Europe warm.
We're going to take a quick break from the show and talk about our sponsor, U.S. Coring, the independent leader in data recovery. We talk a lot about drilling faster, completing better, but at the end of the day, your entire development strategy is only as good as the data you're pulling out of the ground.
If you don't know your rock, you're just guessing. That's why we're excited to have U.S. Coring as a partner of the show.
For those who don't know, U.S. Coring is actually the #1 independent provider of conventional coring services in North America. When we say independent, we're talking about a team with decades of experience in every basin, including Alaska and the Gulf of America.
What stands out to me is their track record. They've cut over 190,000 feet of core with a 97.5% recovery rate. But the stat that really matters for the folks on the rig, they've gone over 14 years without a single lost time incident. That's a serious commitment to safety.
That's right, and safety's a big deal. You know this, your dad's been drilling wells for over 25 years, and that's one thing that he always says. He said, when the downturn happens, who stays? The people that did it safe. They got the job done, but they did it safe. And they aren't just bringing old school tools to the site. Their flagship Rockstrong system is engineered specifically for those high vibration, harsh environments where other tools might fail. It's got built-in jam mitigation and anti-jamming features so you can actually get the core to the surface without any extra trips.
And if you're looking for real-time insights, you have to check out their Intelligent Coring System, or ICS. They partner with Core All to bring modular, instrumented technology that gives you gamma, resistivity, and vibration data while you're coring.
Imagine saving 5 to 15 hours of rig time because you're seeing the formation evaluation data instantly. They even have the co-drill module, which lets you switch between coring and full bore drilling in real time without tripping pipe.
They proved it recently in the Lower Wilcox Formation using their Rockstrong system and low invasion bits. With a 210-foot oriented coring system, they secured a 210-foot core with 100% recovery at an average ROP of 22.5 feet per hour. No HSE issues or operational downtime, just high-quality data.
Wow, that was great. Whether it's conventional, oriented, full closure, or sponge coring, U.S. Coring is built for the future of the oil field.
Give them a call at their headquarters in Conroe, Texas, or visit them online at us-coring.com to see how they can optimize your next project.
U.S. Coring, experience you can trust. Now let's get back to the show. Okay, quick break from the show. Let's talk about the black box in our industry. It's usually the reservoir. You design the perfect completion, you pump the job, and then you wait for the production curve to tell you how you did. But what if the rock could talk back? At Borehole Seismic, they aren't just listening to the subsurface, they're giving it a nervous system. DAS, or DAS, strain monitoring. At Borehole Seismic, they take it a step further into the low frequency realm. Imagine converting a standard fiber optic cable into continuous string of thousands of ultra-sensitive sensors. While you're pumping, they're measuring the literal stretching and squeezing of the rock, sub-nanostrain sensitivity in real time. You can map the strain shadow. They're seeing exactly where the fractures are propagating, detecting fracture hit timing before it becomes a problem, and measuring cluster efficiency with surgical precision. Whether you're in oil and gas, geothermal, carbon capture, they're removing the maybe from your completion geometry. But maybe you've got a different problem. Maybe you've got legacy data that looks like a static filled TV from 1986. The reprocessing team at Borehole Seismic are the ultimate data whisperers. They apply advanced signal-to-noise enhancement to pull high-resolution insights out of noisy legacy data. It's like taking an old blurred photo and finally seeing the faces. Stop flying blind, optimize your stages, protect your offsets, and understand your reservoir's mechanical response like never before. Borehole Seismic is turning fiber into focus. Visit with Shane Quimby at boreholeseismic.com to see how they're redefining the borehole. Now, let's get back to the show.
This year. And
Absolutely.
And they're actually a little low on their gas and storage, so they're going to be happy those LNG boats are coming over there right now because it's getting pretty cold. Also, that we provide just so much energy for every. I can't remember the statistics, but how many man hours a barrel of oil actually equals. There's so many hours a day.
Yeah.
So there's a statistic out there somewhere that I can't. Of course, I'm old enough that I keep forgetting most everything, but it's just an incredible amount of work that you're going to get out of a barrel of oil, right? If you break it down to how much that's going to help. So you deliver that oil, and then what they can accomplish with that energy is just so tremendous. So it helps them build economies, which is what we want. It builds, and when you help them build their economy, it helps them build their middle class. As soon as their middle class gets built up, then suddenly they are more concerned about things like the environment and trying to keep the earth pretty and warm and safe, right? I mean, all that stuff has to develop from the bottom. But first you have to give people a means to eat, right? Feed themselves, and then they have time to start worrying about the other stuff other than the next meal. And energy gives them those opportunities. So it's very important to get that out to the world. I mean, we talk about we're exporting, but 5 million barrels a day now, you guys here?
2.5?
2.5.
2.5. So, but as a country, I guess we're probably 5.5.
5.5, 6, yeah.
But we're still importing. I mean, we still use more oil than we export, right? I mean, we're still using 18 to 20 million barrels a day. We're only producing about 13.5. So somewhere we got to make that up. So we are still importing barrels, right?
Yeah.
But just the fact that we have to move the barrels to the refineries that can utilize them is the beauty of our export facilities, right? I mean, we're able to take these light barrels, send them someplace where they can refine them. Our refineries here in Corpus primarily were set up for Venezuelan or South American crude. So you have to actually get the barrels to where they can use them, right? I mean, that's the important part too of the port, moving them to the refineries that can actually refine this type of oil.
Right.
You mentioned, Brent, LNG in Europe and keeping them warm. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2019, all of the shipments that were leaving Cheniere are now being pointed to Europe. Before that invasion, it was 50-50. It was Asia and Europe. It's balanced out a little bit more. Things have calmed down a little bit, but those first couple of years when Russia invaded Ukraine, the majority of the LNG carriers were headed to Europe.
Oh, interesting.
And you have, that causes other problems. So, all right. I mean, you take all the LNG to Europe, and a lot of that LNG was going to Southeast Asia. Well, Southeast Asia is where they make most of the fertilizer, right? Which they use methane to make the fertilizer. So suddenly, Europeans can afford more expensive gas. LNG goes there. Southeast Asia can't afford to make fertilizer out of that expensive gas. So, I mean, it had the trickle down of moving all that gas to Europe instead of taking it to Southeast Asia. It was pretty big on the Southeast Asian economies, obviously. And when that gas price spiked, I mean, we still they were getting, I think, what is it, in Europe's paying probably $14 an M right now, plus or minus.
Wow.
And we're getting in the field. Well, this weekend we did pretty well, but last Tuesday I think we got 220 or something for our gas in the field. So somebody's making a lot of money in the middle. It's not us. Don't blame
Absolutely.
us.
Wow. Now, thinking about what you're currently doing at the port every day, the people you're working with, talk about some of the other leaders in the port and kind of the vision that you guys all have, the alignment you guys have, and the vision you have for the port.
Our CEO has been in place for going now 3 years, and his three main objectives are to keep this waterway open and maintain waterway safety. Those as a non-federal, because the channel itself is a federal waterway. It's run by the Army Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guards, and we're the non-federal sponsor that helps run it. Now, we own land on both sides of the channel for economic development purposes, but the channel is federal. So those two things are very important to him. And the third is he wants to really focus on infrastructure. In the last 10 years, we've invested over $1 billion in infrastructure at the Port of Corpus Christi without charging our customers, without raising rates. And I think that's an important distinction to point out, is that as our fortunes grow through our growth and attributed to our customers, we put that money right back into that ship channel. And one of the biggest projects, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this, dredging the channel from 47 feet to 54 took 30 plus years. This is a project that started in 1990 when George H. Walker Bush was president, Bush 41.
Wow.
Okay. This project touched 6 presidents, both Bushes, Clinton, Obama, Trump, and Biden. Right? The first dollar that because this is a federal, it's a federal channel, so the state does not provide any funding because it's a federal channel. The first dollar that we ever got was during President Trump's first term. It was $13 million. Second year was $100 million. Then we get into President Biden, and it skipped the first year. We didn't get it. So then this little war in Ukraine started, and our previous CEO, Sean Strawbridge, was really aggressive in the media talking about if we want to deliver energy to our partners, you need to invest in the Port of Corpus Christi. And guess what? It worked. And we got the final funding under President Biden, the last $154 million. But this channel was a $650 million investment. And the port picked up a third of that, and the rest was paid by the U.S. taxpayers. But having that certainty to go from 47 to 54, the economies of scale work better to load more product, more crude on the ships. And that is what changed our fortunes, is having that depth of 54 feet was a big win for this region. And it's also paying, we've had other commercial opportunities outside of the oil and gas industry because of that depth of 54 that we're still working through.
Really?
And it would be good to diversify this port moving forward. You mentioned
Hydrogen.
40 to 50 years. Hydrogen is one of those, when Biden was President Biden, he had an initiative for hydrogen, and he went out to the hydrogen hubs, and everybody competed for hydrogen hubs, right? We looked at hydrogen as another commodity to export.
Sure.
You talk about the environmentalists, right? They were all in on hydrogen until they figured out that the oil and gas industry is going to be behind some of this hydrogen. They're the ones with the technology, especially with the blue hydrogen that was going to need natural gas for production. Hydrogen is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but when. Europe needs it. Asia needs it. I think Texas is going to be in a prime position to supply hydrogen. But until those markets further develop and we get to a price point where you can produce and export and still make money, I think we're probably another 10 years away, in my opinion, if not longer.
Wow.
If you would have asked me 2021, 2022, we probably had 60 companies looking at the Port of Corpus to provide to do a hydrogen facility.
Wow.
And we still have 2 projects left. One of them is Enbridge, in partnership with Yara. They want to build an ammonia facility out in Ingleside, but that has been met with such resistance in the community. that they've not been able to finalize that. They need one permit from the city of Ingleside. They need a special use permit to produce the ammonia at their facility. But that would be a game changer. That ammonia is going to Europe. You know, Yara is a company from Norway, but when the environmentalists figured out that hydrogen was a lifeline in their minds to the oil and gas industry, you start to get a lot of resistance and a lot of pushback.
How about carbon capture? They love that.
Oh, that's
stuff,
even
right?
worse.
That's even worse.
You know, carbon capture, people think that, that those high pressure CO2 lines are going to explode.
Wow.
You know, so there's a lot of
non-flammable.
angst. Right. There's a lot of CO2 issues, not issues. There's just not a lot of education initiatives to educate the general public on hydrogen and carbon capture. It's astonishing the lack of information that's out there, and what is out there is not accurate because because again, carbon capture is a lifeline of the oil and gas industry. You know, and of course, with the current administration, things have changed. So no one's focused on hydrogen. If Exxon canceled their project up north near Houston in Bay City, I don't think anyone is going to be able to get it done with the resources that Exxon has. So I don't know when the hydrogen talks are re-engaged or reignited. It's going to happen, and this port will be ready to export. But it's going to happen in partnership with the oil and gas industry. They're the only ones that have the technology that can do it.
Lithium?
We have some lithium mining in South Texas, but from a port perspective, we haven't seen.
Not shipping any.
No. I don't know if you guys have
I don't play
any
that
knowledge
game.
on that.
No, not in the minerals part.
Freshwater. Shipping freshwater around the world?
Fresh water is an issue. We do.
Oh, if we want to talk about water, we can talk about water for the next hour.
Yeah,
if you want to go that direction, I'll let Brent handle that one.
We have a water problem. We don't have any. So we don't have a water problem. We have a salt problem, right? We have too much salt in the water that we have because we've been in the drought for 10 years.
I don't
So
think
we're-
we've really had much rain since 2010. Yeah,
Right. So it's
15
been
years.
a long time in a drought. Our lake is empty,
Yeah.
It's our 10% capacity.
10% capacity.
Wow.
Combined.
Coming
with the
next
two lakes.
May, if we don't have water, then they'll start rationing, and then
It's actually this May, Brett.
this
It's
May.
this
Right.
May.
I guess that's right. It's not next anymore since we're
Yeah.
in January 2026. So that will be a monster for Corpus.
Wow.
And and sadly, that's probably a political issue, as much as anything else.
So there was a lot of concern that if we didn't find water, that some of these refineries would be shutting down
Sure.
units. I mean, keep in mind, one of the refineries here, and I won't mention the name, they refine all the jet fuel for DFW Airport
Whoa.
and Austin and San Antonio. Again, national security issues. And so each one of the refineries has taken it upon themselves to find additional water.
Wow.
Whether they're going to drill wells, working on recycle initiatives,
There you
they've
go.
taken the steps to figure out their future because they cannot depend on local politics to bring that water to them. And
Yeah,
make
how
no
could-
mistake,
yeah.
the city council, the mayor are working very hard to solve this
To
problem.
figure it out,
But this
yeah.
is a problem that started 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't put the blame on the current council. They inherited this problem. But with anything, whiskey's for drinking and what's in water's for fighting. And I think that is something that is very prevalent here locally. But it impacts the port. If we don't have a reliable water source, we're not going to have additional economic development, not only for the port, but for the entire region.
Community, yeah.
So overcoming that, that's something as in my role, I also oversee commercial and business development and marketing, is how do we market that we're going to have water in the next 5 years? I can assure you, we have to have water in the next 5 years, and we will. But when you get articles in the Wall Street Journal that we're almost dry, that does not send a positive message for economic development, the future of economic development opportunities.
You got all the energy in the world you need, but you got a freshwater problem.
Well, right, we have a freshwater problem.
Yeah.
And you talk about the city governments, and this is 10 years. It's really Mary Rhodes Pipeline was built when I first got here
Yeah,
in the
the
early
80s,
90s.
yeah.
Okay, so it's we did a minor solution then, and that still carries what, 1 million-ish barrels a day
So.
bringing in. So it's bringing a lot of water in. It's probably half or more than half of what we use.
Where's
It's
it coming from?
From the lake on the way to Houston, and if you ever driven over it, you're like, there's not much water in this lake.
Wow.
Lake Texoma. right? Is it like Texoma?
Texana.
Texana.
And
Yeah,
El
Texana.
Campo. It's just not that big of a lake,
Whoa.
but that's where we're getting most of our water now. I mean, our watershed, the problem with our watershed, it's a Frio River, it's a Nueces River. Both of those run across the Edwards Aquifer before they get to our lake. So, it rains like mad in Concan, all that water, they got 20-foot water in the river. Well, that gets to the Edwards Aquifer and it all disappears before it ever gets past there to get into our watershed, right?
Which is the water sources, for San Antonio and Austin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Booming
so-
population areas.
So we have
Whoa.
a real problem, and then what happens is like city governments they're all over it, they're trying to get it fixed, and then we have the blessing and the curse of hurricanes. Okay, about every 8 or 9 years, a hurricane rolls up behind us, fills all the lakes. Oh, we don't have a problem anymore. So then they put it on the back burner. So nobody's actually taking the steps. It's hard to take steps when we have lots of water to make sure we have water 20
When you
years down the
don't.
road. That's just a hard
Holy
for any
smokes.
city council, and they're elected for 2 or 4 years. They're not.
2-year terms.
We don't have a 10-year plan. We have a 2-year plan typically. So.
Wow.
And the cost too. I mean, you're looking at in the billions. There are two opportunities that would change the fortunes. Is a desalination facility on the Inner Harbor that the city is working on.
Wow. Nice.
And then we have leased property that we own property that is has access to the Gulf of Mexico, if you will. It's called Harbor Island, and we've leased it to the Nueces River Authority for them to develop
Desal?
a desalination facility, which would be about 100 million gallons per day desalination facility, which would help.
100 million gallons?
The city's is 30 million,
Holy smokes.
and that's something that if either one of those comes online, it would help immensely, but they can't come online fast enough. And the city is working very closely with the Nueces River Authority to help commercialize that and bring that online. And they're also working on their own, because the city of Corpus Christi is a water provider. They have a water department. They have all the infrastructure. They provide water to 8 different counties in the region, right? And so they have the expertise. The port's not in the water business. We just lease land on Harbor Island and hope that gets commercialized. We want that not only for this region, but that could be looked at for the state as well too. The entire state, there's a lot of Texas that's in drought.
Yeah.
It's not just this region, and you got to pull water somewhere.
Right. But the water, like on your Harbor Island deal, the city has the right to take 20% of that,
50.
50% of it. Okay, so they can get a lot of water every day, which we'll need.
Yeah, they have a reservation fee with the Nueces
Did
River
they
Authority.
end up? Did the city take the reservation? Did they sign up for that?
Yeah, for 50%.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. I wasn't sure where that went, because I know at first they didn't.
No, they've been working very collaboratively. Everyone is trying to solve this and work together.
Yeah, it has to happen fast. And
Wow.
And it's going to need a lot of money. Now, what? I don't know if you have these statistics, but how much per gallon does desal cost?
I know that's a good question, but I don't have that
Yeah,
question.
I would like to have that. I couldn't find that answer to see what the cost difference is, because if we had another hurricane, it fills the lakes, everybody's gonna be like, oh, we got all this cheap water. And desal is
spend the
gonna
money?
cost more because it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna be energy intensive, right, to get that
Absolutely.
to get that salt out of it.
And like most things, you can't just start it and stop it and then just start
Exactly,
it later. It's just going to
exactly.
be, if once it goes, it's got to be some kind of commitment where it can't stop. If anything, it
So we
just
shouldn't hook
kill
it to a windmill to run it. We should probably hook it to an energy source that's 24/7.
Natural gas power plant, perhaps.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be a
yeah.
good spot. Or,
Wow.
or we could just run it during the day with a solar panel. Maybe
Wow.
Oh no.
Well, we're kind of transitioning to the completion segment of the.
I figured I would say something to get a kick out of this room.
We love all forms of energy, right? But,
That's right.
but huge supporters of the oil and gas industry.
The most efficient ones will win. They will win.
The ones that are 24/7 will win.
Right, right.
That's the important
Reliable, efficient,
Right.
and do a better job at managing it and making it last. Not being preservationist but conservationist is a big deal, and I think the future. And so this is a fascinating subject and topics, and I get all these visuals. I'm a big visual guy when I hear you talk and Omar, and I'm just thinking, what is this place going to look like in 40 years, 50 years? Here's another one of these. What's this one's called? LR1 Ambassador.
That's a crude. That is a
An empty
crude
boat.
tanker coming empty, load crude from the Permian Basin, probably.
Yeah.
Ready to
Yeah,
take
speaking
it to
of
the
that,
world.
you used to have an issue. You couldn't get under that bridge, right? Because a certain size tanker, you couldn't fill the tankers all the way to get.
So here's the biggest mystery. Right now, you could bring in a very large crude carrier. You could have brought it with the old Harbor Bridge
Okay.
still. The issue is that we don't have a wide enough turning basin to turn to VLCC.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
that's why those VLCCs go to Ingleside, to the
Okay.
Enbridge and Gibson facilities.
Well, actually, Ingleside's closer to the Gulf anyway, right?
Right, it's a
It
shorter run.
Yeah, shorter run. So.
Are they still talking about putting a loading terminal just at the mouth of the ship channel?
You're talking about the offshore buoy project, Don? There's probably 3 or 4 potential projects in the Gulf of Mexico to do offshore buoys. They're going to be anywhere from 10 to 20 miles offshore, where
Okay.
they have a deeper depth of 90 feet, which you need to fully load a VLCC. Well, you'll need 75 to fully load a VLCC. The problem is the cost to run that pipeline.
Okay.
Right. And is there going to be more production coming out of the Permian Basin? Because you still have a lot of capacity all along the Gulf Coast at ports. If it's not Corpus, Freeport, Houston, if you, again, with 90% of the pipes full, we're constrained.
Right.
But we have plenty of terminal capacity, docks that are underutilized, where if you put more steel in the ground and point it to Corpus, we wouldn't have any problem loading those vessels.
Okay.
Good.
So
Good.
there's a lot of
I'd
give
like
and
to
take
keep
with,
it
with,
home.
with the market, right? You know, and it's in the public eye. We've got a partnership with Phillips 66 that if they develop that buoy, the port will be involved in that process. But to me, it's going to be all market driven, and depending, is there going to be more production coming out of the Permian Basin, or is somebody going to put a pipe from Cushing down to Corpus to bring Canadian specs or specs from the Bakken or from Oklahoma,
Oh, wow.
the Rockies, and bring it down to Corpus? I mean, that remains to be seen. Phillips 66 did have plans. It was called a Red Oak. COVID hit, and they abandoned that project, which would have given us a lot of different opportunities outside of Texas as well. So maybe that comes back to fruition one day.
Right.
We can only hope.
All depends on price, right?
Right, exactly.
And like you're talking about the mixed barrels, right? I know that the Cushing stuff ends up being a mix of a whole bunch of different types of oil, and a lot of refiners don't want that.
Right.
They want a steady,
want a pure barrel. Mhm.
So that does cause issues on the refining end.
Absolutely.
Which is where you guys make your money.
So on the Harbor Island desal, I heard a presentation by the port last year where they're actually going to take a pipeline offshore.
Offshore, that's
to-
correct, Don.
To dispose of the brine.
The brine, yeah.
Where it'll be easily absorbed.
2 to 3 miles offshore,
Right.
which is adding to the cost.
Right. Right.
But it's the right thing to do from an environmental perspective.
Right.
Absolutely.
Get it out in the Gulf Stream.
yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
the
Disperse.
Heart Institute talked to us last year
About
as
that.
well, and they
Right.
said that right there where the Harbor Island is, it's too close to the intake
Right.
for the estuary, so they're going to take it offshore.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I think that's, and my neighbor's involved in it, and I said, made some comment about that, and he's like, well, it's going to cost this, and I'm like, well, it'll never be cheaper.
Didn't we have?
Right.
You know.
Exactly. I mean, it's not getting any cheaper as each passing day goes by. That cost keeps continuing going up.
Okay, quick break from the show. Let's talk about the black box in our industry. It's usually the reservoir. You design the perfect completion, you pump the job, and then you wait for the production curve to tell you how you did. But what if the rock could talk back? At Borehole Seismic, they aren't just listening to the subsurface, they're giving it a nervous system. DAS, or DAS, strain monitoring, at Borehole Seismic, they take it a step further into the low-frequency realm. Imagine converting a standard fiber optic cable into a continuous string of thousands of ultra-sensitive sensors. While you're pumping, they're measuring the literal stretching and squeezing of the rock, sub-nanostrain sensitivity in real time. You can map the strain shadow. They're seeing exactly where the fractures are propagating, detecting fracture hit timing before it becomes a problem, and measuring cluster efficiency with surgical precision. Whether you're in oil and gas, geothermal, carbon capture, they're removing the maybe from your completion geometry. But maybe you've got a different problem. Maybe you've got legacy data that looks like a static-filled TV from 1986. The reprocessing team at Borehole Seismic are the ultimate data whisperers. They apply advanced signal-to-noise enhancement to pull high-resolution insights out of noisy legacy data. It's like taking an old blurred photo and finally seeing the faces. Stop flying blind, optimize your stages, protect your offsets, and understand your reservoir's mechanical response like never before. Borehole Seismic is turning fiber into focus. Visit with Shane Quimby at boreholeseismic.com to see how they're redefining the borehole. Now, let's get back to the show. We're going to take a quick break from the show and talk about our sponsor, U.S. Coring, the independent leader in data recovery. You know, we talk a lot about drilling faster, completing better, but at the end of the day, your entire development strategy is only as good as the data you're pulling out of the ground.
If you don't know your rock, you're just guessing. That's why we're excited to have U.S. Coring as a partner of the show.
For those who don't know, U.S. Coring is actually the #1 independent provider of conventional coring services in North America. When we say independent, we're talking about a team with decades of experience in every basin, including Alaska and the Gulf of America.
What stands out to me is their track record. They've cut over 190,000 feet of core with a 97.5% recovery rate. But the stat that really matters for the folks on the rig, they've gone over 14 years without a single lost time incident. That's a serious commitment to safety.
That's right, and safety's a big deal. You know this, your dad's been drilling wells for over 25 years, and that's one thing that he always says. He said, when the downturn happens, who stays? The people that did it safe. They got the job done, but they did it safe. And they aren't just bringing old school tools to the site. Their flagship Rockstrong system is engineered specifically for those high vibration, harsh environments where other tools might fail. It's got built-in jam mitigation and anti-jamming features so you can actually get the core to the surface without any extra trips.
And if you're looking for real-time insights, you have to check out their Intelligent Coring System, or ICS. They partner with Core All to bring modular, instrumented technology that gives you gamma, resistivity, and vibration data while you're coring.
Imagine saving 5 to 15 hours of rig time because you're seeing the formation evaluation data instantly. They even have the co-drill module, which lets you switch between coring and full bore drilling in real time without tripping pipe.
They proved it recently in the Lower Wilcox Formation using their Rockstrong system and low invasion bits. With a 210-foot oriented coring system, they secured a 210-foot core with 100% recovery at an average ROP of 22.5 feet per hour. No HSE issues or operational downtime, just high-quality data.
Wow, that was great. Whether it's conventional, oriented, full closure, or sponge coring, U.S. Coring is built for the future of the oil field.
Give them a call at their headquarters in Conroe, Texas, or visit them online at us-coring.com to see how they can optimize your next project.
U.S. Coring, experience you can trust. Now let's get back to the show.
Nothing's getting cheaper.
We used to have a bunch of very close-in oil rigs out there, and all those had pipe coming in onshore.
Whoa.
Can't we reverse that? I mean, those pipes, all those platforms had pipe coming. You would
It's a great question, but I
was
was
around and take it back off.
Yeah, if there's existing
put new
pipe-
pipe in,
if
right?
there's existing pipe,
right?
that's
Use
an
the existing
interesting,
pipe
yeah.
that's already there, because all those platforms have been abandoned for the most part. You have pipe. I don't know if it gets out to you need to get out 90 feet of water is where the current picks up.
35, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. How
but-
far off?
Yeah,
are
you
Not quite
don't,
sure.
I don't think
Yeah.
it has to be 90. I think 35.
Okay. Yeah, just
You
so
know.
you get it into the Gulf Stream, because
Yeah.
dilution's a solution, right?
Right.
Yep.
There you go. Don, you volunteer and you do things with scouts. You talk to young minds and students. And last night we had a dinner, and I'm sitting around the table and I'm hearing all this passion for Corpus Christi, the passion of these scientists that actually are trying to figure out a solution for some very serious problems. What's your take on that next generation, and what do you see in the younger kids that are going through school? Is there a lot of passion towards the port and understanding energy and wanting to be a part of this?
Not really, and it's sad. And we were talking about this at home last night afterwards, because my husband adjuncts out at TAM UCC in the geology department, And there, it seems academia is just either you're going to do water or you're going to do environmental or you're going to do oil and gas, and not understanding the crossover advantages of all of those things. And so until maybe instruments like this, and we do a better job, promoting, because oil and gas is still fairly vilified. You were talking about, oil and gas, and it goes. I'm real excited about this Harbor Point Park that's coming. It'll be right there, open to the public, a beautiful view, but until folks understand how better life is with cheap energy, we're not going to get there. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know anything about geology. Someone introduced me to it, and I'm like, oh, I can do this. It's a good, it's a good job. I can, it's well paying, and it's been a good career. But that's just not out there right now.
No. And how about from the port's perspective? Is there a lot of investment into civil engineering and petroleum engineering and geology and really trying to help support the education system in Corpus to better understand energy as a whole?
So we have a couple of scholarship programs with the local universities, including Del Mar College. We give several $100,000 to Del Mar and A&M Corpus Christi, and we've had some initiatives with A&M Kingsville, which has an engineering school, to help with some of the workforce and the future, what the future workforce looks like. So we're trying to do our part. I know industry is going above and beyond to find that future workforce. I just saw the CEO of Ford say that there's a shortage of diesel mechanics. That's going to impact us all. The industry uses a lot of 18-wheelers and diesel engines. They're offering $130,000 starting salary for a diesel mechanic, and they can't find that workforce because it's not. The younger generation doesn't think it's cool. They don't think it's as cool as an Apple phone and the technology. But the first day of my job at Steer in 2012, my then board chair, his name was Hugo Gutierrez, who worked for Marathon. He said, the oil and gas industry has has just as much technology as Apple or more. If we can drill 6,000 feet and run a lateral line a mile and hit a target the size of a dime, right? That's technology at its finest, right? That rivals Apple.
That's awesome.
But kids don't understand that, right? It's not being promoted unless you're in the industry. But even, it was a dagger to the heart. My kids hear about it every day, and my daughter goes, I want a Tesla, Dad. I'm like, dear God, have you not heard all the things about oil and gas and you want a Tesla? But I get it. And I asked her, why do you want a Tesla? It's got an iPad. Again, it's cool.
iPad.
It's got a built-in iPad. It's Apple. It's cool, right? So how do you make oil and gas cool?
Wow.
That to me is where you solve the problem with the younger generation.
Absolutely.
Make it cool.
Make it cool.
And our workforce is going to, we've put everybody went to college, right? If everybody graduates high school and they all go to college, well, we've realized, we didn't need a lot of those kids to go to college. We needed welders, we needed tradespeople,
Pipe fitters, everything.
If you offshore all of your industry, which is what we've been doing for 20 years, and then suddenly you bring it all back, you realize, hey, there's a whole bunch of people we need with skills that we don't have anymore because we all got art history degrees, and they're not really, know. So we got to bring the workers back to the work, right? We got to bring the people. Hey, come back. I want to be a welder. These guys are making $130,000 a year welding. They're making a good living for themselves.
We solved that problem, and I wish it would have continued at Steer. In 2014, we rented at the AT&T Center where the San Antonio Spurs play. Yeah. And each one of my member companies set up different booths to show the technology aspects of oil and gas, and we had over 1,000 kids come from all over the Eagleford to learn, and they got to walk the floor at the AT&T Center. We had the Coyote down. But I'll never forget, there was these two young ladies. They were from Pleasanton in rural South Texas, and the reporter asked them, what did you get, or what was your experience from today? And they said, I thought I was going to go into cosmetology school, now I want to be an engineer. That was a win.
Yeah.
That was a win. But the major undertaking that it took to put on that event was enormous. And getting those schools to buy in get the permission slips signed. It took a major undertaking, but it was worth every penny and every hour we put into it. And that was just one example. But to hear that, to change this perspective of two young ladies in Pleasanton meant the world to everybody.
Right.
But that's what it's going to take.
Well, some of the local elementary schools especially they do right before spring break, right, where the kids are wild, but they do STEAM or STEM days.
Okay.
And I've been privileged to be able to, have my little classroom and have the kids come in, and we've got another couple that talks about this is something that's cool, but it's not energy related per se, but all of the animals from the Ice Age movie, the mammoths and mastodons and saber-toothed cats. The biggest repository of those fossils are right here in Nueces County.
Huh.
Yeah, so so that's a real cool draw for the kids, and we've got a couple who cover that, and so I do rocks and minerals in your everyday life, you know, and I've quit doing 4th and 5th graders because they've heard the talk 2nd and 3rd grade, and then they know all the answers. So I'm like, okay, you guys don't need it anymore, right? But I'll show them a piece of copper, native copper.
Very cool.
And I'm like, what is this? How do we use this every day? And they're like, a penny. And I'm like, no. And I woke up and turn off the light switch.
Nice.
Copper's
in the walls of every building you're
exactly,
looking at.
And what about PCP pipe or, some plastic? And I go turn on the faucet and, and then you can get into the other esoteric stuff.
See, that's great. Yeah, that's great. So, we're doing it. We're trying to get there. We're going to get there because it is the most reliable and the most efficient thing that we have. And it's not going anywhere. And it's not that I'm biased because I'm from the industry. At heart, I'm a scientist, and my question was always, where does oil come from? And that pursuit of the question has led to the discovery of potentially a whole new geologic process that is not in the textbooks, and that students can hear more about and can engage with and ask these questions. And then we can go and take them to the rocks and show them, here's the rock. Why is it here? How did this geologic process make this rock? It's not something that's just made up. We're physically seeing it. And that to me is very inspirational, and it's supported by the hydrocarbon system. The biosphere is supported by the hydrocarbon system. That is the much larger system, and we live on that, and we're just managing it and getting through it. So we just need to spend more time doing, like you said, more time with Dawn's talking to students, Omar's running programs, making a difference, knowing that the people are wondering, the people are trying to engage, and they want to benefit from all this, and you're trying to bridge that gap. Here's all this very lucrative, very revenue generating, wealth generating process that we have. Here's people that want to be a part of it. Maybe they want to learn in different ways. Maybe they want to work here. But either way, just educating that and communicating and engaging with people is the future. That's, I think, the best thing that we got moving forward.
So in our Master Naturalist, we train 15 to 20 adults, retired people a lot, and being up there with them, and we're bringing in the geology at every location, and saying, hey, because they're in here because they probably have an environmental leaning, but this is a good thing, so.
As a wildcatter, right? As someone who's on the exploration side and finding new deposits that can continue to fill these ports and contribute to global energy, what do you think about what the wildcatter in the future of oil and gas for a port like this? How important is it to continue having wildcatters out there finding new deposits and finding new resources to keep this machine going?
The resource plays are more of a manufacturing play. It's not necessarily the wildcatter. It's not near as much fun. I don't think as far as you sort of replicate. You find it, you figure out how to make it work, and you replicate it over and over and over and over again. And they've done a very good job in the Permian Basin. Obviously, still producing a lot of oil coming out of there. Everybody thought that we would turn over at about 13.5 million barrels a day, and we basically maintained that even with $50 oil. But the wildcatters, you still have to have those. I mean, if we didn't have what Exxon did in Guyana right now, I mean, you're taking 2 million barrels a day off the market. And when the Ukraine first invaded Russia invaded Ukraine. We took the Russian oil. Everybody thought that was coming off the market. That was like 5% of the world's supply, and it made a huge impact on the price. So if you take somebody like what's producing right now in Guyana and what they're going to find in Suriname, all those things take wildcatters to go find those resources. And we're going to have those kind of discoveries going forward just to supply what we need. I know we talk endlessly about an energy transition, and we spend trillions and trillions of dollars getting this energy transition, but the reality is it's an energy addition.
Yeah.
We still use more oil than we ever did.
Yeah.
We've just added more other energy on top of that. And that's how it's going to be. So we're going to need this product. Obviously, we have a lot of $100 oil. We don't have very much $50 oil because we all do this for money, and we got to be able to make money doing it.
Right.
But you also got to have the people who are willing to go spend the billions of dollars it takes to drill offshore Guyana.
Right.
And make those things work.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
that's
no.
the biggest thing. 2 million barrels a day would be huge for oil price if that wasn't here.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of companies that take those kind of risks anymore. And
Right.
you have to have the major oil companies who are willing to risk $1 billion, right? I mean, normal guys can't do that. I can't do that. So
Right.
it's interesting, but we're going to need oil, and we're going to need it for a long time.
Right.
And I'm hoping, especially since South Texas is mainly a gas province, I'm hoping we'll figure out that gas is valuable and we can see the prices. You always hate to hear increased prices, but we've got to make money.
Yeah.
Right? When I started down here exploring for gas, we had during Carter, the windfall profit tax, and we had a special deal where we got a tax break, and we got $2.78 an MCF for gas in 1985.
Jeez, that's what
We
it
got
is
220
today.
last month.
And that's
Week.
without inflation, and I just did a quick. So if we had just kept up with inflation, we would be over $8 an MCF. And when the windmills were first coming into the area, one of the developers came and talked to the Geological Society, and he admitted that if it weren't for subsidies, windmills are not economic without $7 an MCF gas.
Oh, wow.
So
Interesting.
we're having the addition. Someone called hydrocarbons or oil one of the most energy dense pieces, of product that you can have. I guess nuclear would be the only thing
Right.
denser, but I mean we're here, and so if prices justify, where's the best place to find oil and gas? In an oil field. You can go back and get some things that were less economic.
Sure.
Well, we talked about that, right? The oil fields that we found, we've probably taken 10 to 30% of the oil out of the ground.
That's
So
right.
There's still a lot of oil in the ground. It's just going to be more expensive to get it out, right? So the price has to help, or we figure out a better way. Like the resource plays were kicked off because they figured out how to drill really fast and how to complete wells really well to get the oil out of the ground. But they're still leaving 80% of it in the ground, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
At least.
There's a lot of oil out there, right?
Yeah.
It'll be more expensive, obviously.
Now, it's Brownsville. Brownsville's got a LNG plant that's getting up and running, and two massive pipelines supposedly coming out of Corpus being made to go there. Have you heard much about that?
Next Decade is an LNG company. It's based in Houston. That they're going to put an LNG facility at the port of Brownsville, and they're bringing some pipeline from the Agua Dulce hub of natural gas. Is I think where their gas source will be coming from. But that's a great project. We compete with our other 18 ports, but we're also very supportive of them as well too. Just like they support us as well. We all work together during the legislative session to ensure that we get funding not only at the state but the federal level. So we come together quite often. Even though we compete daily, we also work together.
Right.
So,
Well, you have
Brownsville.
to. The amount of gas that's coming from the Permian to get the liquids out, right? You got to have a place for that to go. And then if we can make a profit on it, that's the most ideal situation. LNG, just for simplicity for the listeners, LNG is liquefied natural gas that the gas molecule expanded goes into like some kind of cryo plant or whatever this plant is, and it freezes it, compresses the molecule to much smaller, and it loads onto the tank as a liquid, and then you sail that across the seas, and on the other side they let it expand back out into gas phase?
Yes,
Warm it.
regasified.
All I have to do is
Yeah.
warm it.
Yeah.
Right,
Or
let
turn
it- let it
off,
warm.
or turn
Wow.
off the cryo
Yeah.
freezing.
And the good thing is the boats can actually run on as it warms, the cargo warms, it'll get off gases.
Yeah.
Right, so the boats can actually run on the off gas.
Wow.
One LNG ship can power 30,000 people for a month. One LNG ship that lives at Port of Corpus Christi can provide power for 30,000 people up to a month.
That's amazing. Isn't that just cool?
Wow.
So
That's just
LNG is here
amazing.
to stay,
Right.
whether it's Cheniere here, whether it's next decade, the LNG facilities you have further up the Texas coast, the demand is here to stay for
And we're
decades to
going to
come.
need natural gas to go into that.
Exactly.
In our gas
Yeah.
province down here.
Yep. So I wonder what happens with prices. You know, you're going to have the ability to process it and sell it and move it, and we know that we can open up more gas, and it allows more liquids to come. We can handle the liquids with Port of Christi, like in other ports. I mean, it seems like there's potentially this big wave coming for better gas prices, and we can really take advantage of what this is about.
We should. It won't be a captive market anymore, right? I mean, we have LNG, you can get it offshore, so suddenly we're not necessarily looking at the price at Henry Hub, we're looking at the price in Europe.
Yeah.
So, and they've typically paid a lot more. I mean,
Yeah.
from an energy standpoint, the United States should really be benefiting because we have the cheapest natural gas on the planet. So our industry should be the best, most economic industries going, right? Because we have all this cheap energy now. When it rises a little bit, is it going to make a difference? It's going to cost them a little bit more locally, but it's still going to be less in Europe because it costs, what, $4-ish an M to liquefy it, transport it, dump it. So,
But what are they getting over there?
and they're getting like 14 or 14
Or
to
I've
18 right
heard
now.
as high as
right?
20,
So they're-
yeah.
And we're getting, like I said, we were getting 220 last week in the
Right,
field, so
right.
on the daily. So it's a pretty big markup. And when you look at another thing that really bugs me is I look at how much I pay for gas at my house. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a middleman in here somewhere. So I'm buying it by the cubic foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 20 times more than I'm getting per MCF.
Wow.
Something's wrong with this picture. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Well, we could talk all day, but we are done with the completion segment of the
All
PBE
right.
podcast.
We've completed it.
Yes. Thank you guys
Hopefully it
for.
won't be a dry hole.
No. This is definitely a lot of good liquid information, and I appreciate you guys' time very much today and making this show.
Thank you for having us, Troy.
Thank you.
Pleasure.